So that kind of relates to that, but this comes in as well too, where so much stuff, I think honestly, from where we're at now with information overload, we have a whole lot of, it's like, there's a saying for that. I won't even try and make the saying, but it's like people will do like 4 hours of research before they make a decision that they could just find out if they did it for 2 seconds. And then really what happens now is people will do 4 hours of arguing online about 2 different opposing points when they actually do neither of them in real life anyway. So that's where we're at. So that was the joke with the slide, obviously. You literally have, it's amazing to me how much people will ask for permission for things. Like, that's the thing, is like literally people are afraid now. Guys are afraid, like, I want bigger arms. I currently have in my programming just push, pull, lower, full body, half body. Like, it feels like everything's telling me maybe I should have an arm day. But you got to go online and ask permission first. Is, can I have an arm day? I know there's these rules and this and that. And so like it drives me nuts now, where again, that's half of hopefully trying to teach and trying to give you guys going through all this stuff as well too, is that's the idea of having concepts and principles and actually applying them to large groups of people. Like, you will actually learn that there's not necessarily these hard, fast rules. It's just tools you're hopefully equipping people with to make good decisions. And avoid the whole thing where it's just, you get that, because that's what you get. You get someone that's like literally afraid they're going to do like an arm day or something, and then someone's going to say, you're an idiot for doing an arm day. You've only been training for 3 years. You can't have an arm day. You should still be on a full body or half body or whatever. They're going to get yelled at by the team, no arm day, for putting in an arm day. It's like, it's not how things work. Okay, so this is coming again from personal standpoint, from a trainer, from a client standpoint. I always say too, if we're going down the list of how to actually be a good trainer, what did I already say? I'm always gonna mess up the things I said. Obviously, wouldn't give a shit's probably a good idea for a start there. And if I actually look at, so again, when you're actually doing your intake, is obviously finding what someone's why is, finding what they're in there for. That's gonna decide, can you actually have any type of adherence with your client for what you're supposed to do? Then your next most important job, because even if you find that, you still can't make someone adhere, right? Ultimately, they're in the gym for an hour a day, 3 times a week, or whatever it is. They've got all the rest of the time to do whatever the hell they want. They could totally negate everything that you're doing. So I always say, everyone says, well, what's a trainer's job? What's a trainer's number one job? I'm not gonna ask y'all because it's written right there what the real answer is. But the most common thing you hear in the industry is produce results. And obviously, to a degree, that's kind of true. But for what the reasons I just mentioned, you can't actually guarantee results with anyone. That's ultimately still up to them. And even when you've got someone in person, you, at some point in time, depending on the individual, you can't make them do the things that you're asking them to do. Again, it's not even for a lack of cueing, a lack of trying, or like whenever you could still just have someone just like, meh, like you just can't actually make them work hard, and that might be the case. So this is where it comes, and I say the number one job of a trainer or a good coach is managing expectations, because that's where it's all about, if you do these things, and then again, still even wording it based on what I've seen, here's what the potential outcome or the most likely outcome is going to be. And that way, when you do those things, it doesn't turn into you guaranteeing anything, because as soon as you guarantee something, guarantee a result or guarantee a specific outcome, then it's all up to you. And if you don't deliver that, then you messed up, they didn't mess up. And I've got a bunch of examples. One I always share with this, there's so many examples. This comes to from the nerd standpoint, because we've got the super nerds now in the industry relating this to working out and muscle building. One of the funniest things to me now is how much people will guarantee a specific outcome. When it comes to, we're doing this, like people have taken, I always joke now, is there's like whole crews, Tom doesn't even know this. I would say that Tom probably has made the most, obviously didn't make up the words, but using the words like optimal, bias, things like that to accurately describe certain things that we're making for decisions. Like there's whole crews of people online now that get made fun of for being the optimal crew. This is the optimal crew. I was like, you guys don't even know where that word came into the industry from, and you're all misusing it like a bunch of idiots. And so all these people will use this term optimal or use these terms like bias, and they'll use them out of context, and they'll use them most of the time to guarantee a specific outcome. We do this position because this is gonna grow with the medial head of your tricep. This is gonna grow this part of your lat. This is gonna grow whatever. And I'm always like, anytime someone guarantees an outcome, I was like, you're just full of shit. You are 100% full of shit, or you're confused. I don't know, I shouldn't say that. I can't guarantee what their actual motive is, if they know they're full of shit, or they've just been full of their shit for so long that they actually think they're speaking a truth and they actually haven't thought through, like, have I actually seen this result on a human being?
That's the thing. They have zero experience where they would recognize that they've never seen that happen.
Yeah.
Right? It works your lower bicep. Where's the guy walking around there with a bicep that goes, shoo, boom, nothing up here? Where's that freak? Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things that, again, I think is one, long-term, a lot of this stuff will tend to work itself out, I think. You know, people that, again, if you actually want to be in the industry for a long period of time, actually helping people for a long period of time, little vessels and tools that we have in the industry come and go, right? You know, because it was websites, it's blogs, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's TikTok. As those things come and go, you'll get people that get good at that vessel, but aren't actually good coaches, good trainers, good educators. And so this is the type of stuff where I think it's perceivably having all the answers. So that's where like Tiffany, Tom was kind of half joking about having all the answers. It's like some people take it upon themselves to feel like that's their job. They have to have all the answers. And that in itself, not just trying to have a direction you can give a client, but having the exact specific answer, it comes more from an ego standpoint. It comes from like, I want everyone to recognize how smart I am because I'm the guy that has all the answers. And as soon as you position yourself with that as that person, then you have to keep having all the answers, which at some point in time is just going to be a load of horse shit coming out of your mouth, because who the hell can have all the answers to everything? So again, even from the way that you present information, present things, present outcomes, like it's so much more important to just manage expectations of like, well, here's what I've actually seen. And I always joke, like that's the most important. Everybody wants to be an expert now. Everyone wants to speak. Oh, I'm an expert, I'm this expert. Everybody puts expert in their bio. It's the same thing. It's like, how do you know that person so-and-so? It's in their bio. I know, it's like a legally binding thing, bio. I always say like an expert is someone that stays 100% within their knowledge base. It's not someone that has a massive knowledge base. It's someone that stays within their knowledge base. Because as long as you're staying right within your knowledge base, you're gonna have every actual thing that you've seen. And then the thing that's actually good is as soon as you have something outside of your knowledge base and you actually explain that or explain why that is, that actually builds trust with people as well too. Because then it's one, when you actually answer something you've seen or whatever, you also can't be wrong, right? That's what being an expert is you can't, it's not about knowing everything too, it's about not necessarily being wrong. So if someone asks me a question, I say, well, with this client, that client, or this group of clients, when I've done this, here's what I've seen. You're just telling the truth, right? It's not necessarily about saying, here's exactly how this chemical process works, and this is exactly why I had this specific outcome. You're just saying, well, when I've applied these things, here's the outcome that I've seen. And as long as you're constantly doing those things, again, you're never gonna get to a point where like, hey, this guy's full of shit, this guy's whatever. And if somebody, you get these outliers, which exist in every population, it's like, well, I didn't get that or whatever. And I was like, well, this is why I said what I've seen, and let's take a look at why maybe this didn't work for you, or whatever it is. So much of the stuff from our point is, as you go through all of this stuff, is hopefully you get more tools, you get a better thought process, you get some neat specific things as well too, is just realize what those tools are for and realize what they can let you do with these specific things. It's not to have all these exact answers, it's more so again, so you get better expectation management. And the one thing I always tied this to, there's a million examples of this, but one that sticks out for me, again, of something that actually happened with me and a client that I always share on this, is when I was working at a big box gym, I had a trainer that was a horrible trainer that was working with this middle-aged female, probably in her early 40s, came and wanted to lose like 50 pounds or something. And not from this client, but this trainer was stealing from the company. I think he was like basically training under the table with some of his clients or whatever. He got caught, he got fired. And he had just started with this woman. She literally had like one session with him. She didn't get stolen from, but her trainer was like, I just got started and my trainer got fired, great. And so obviously horrible representation for the company, for the business, horrible taste in the client's mouth. And he was already, I don't remember how the pairing exactly worked, but it was a female with a male client. And this guy probably wasn't the best fit for her in the first place anyway. And so I was the manager at the point in time, so I got to be the person that she came to for me to like salvage this thing. And so literally I'm sitting in front of her and just first off kind of apologizing, explaining what we're gonna try and do for a good experience from here on out. And she was, from the second sitting down from me, agitated that she had to like not be in the gym floor actually like working out. She's like, I just want to, like, let's just start doing stuff. I know that I have to work out to get in shape and to lose weight, let's just go. And so my whole thing was like, I have to have some conversations with you aside from the intake of written on paper. Do we have injuries? Are we cleared to train? All that kind of liability stuff. It's like, we just have to talk just a teeny tiny bit. Like I have to have some idea of what you're doing outside the gym and all this kind of stuff. And so I had this conversation with her and it got to the point where I was like, we need to have the nutrition conversation. And I was like, if your goal is weight loss, that's almost entirely outside of what we're doing in the sessions. And as soon as I was having some conversation about that, she was literally shutting me down. She's like, I've already had this talk with the other trainer. I do not want to talk nutrition. And I was like, we just have to have some, little education. I'm not even saying diet. We just got to, she's like, I do not want to talk about nutrition. Like, I just want to start training. I already had this conversation, like getting like pissed off. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I'm going to tell you one thing. If we have no conversations about nutrition, I have no idea what you're doing outside of what we're doing in the gym floor, I can guarantee you 0 pounds of weight loss. And she was like, that's fine, let's go. And I was like, all right, well, let's go. And so like that literally was it. I remember it was probably in the office for an extremely uncomfortable 5 minutes. And then like the whole rest of my time was just giving her a good experience. So after like multiple sessions of like, hey, this guy's on time, like, hey, he's actually nice and smiling and he's friendly and we're going through this stuff and stuff doesn't hurt. We trained, she had a long commitment. That was the other part too, is I think she'd committed to the trainer for 3 or 4 months or something, paid everything up front. And so I was like, I just want to give her a good experience, and that was the whole thing. So we went through all this 3 months, 4 months of training, and she had some of the typical stuff that she said would happen. I think I had said this ahead of time. I was like, I can guarantee you no weight loss. You know, you might feel better, have better energy, your clothes might fit a little bit better, but you could possibly lose 0 pounds. And at the end of 3 or 4 months, she literally lost 0 pounds, absolutely 0. And so when we sat down, like I was half thinking, like for me, my brain like ahead of time was like, just gonna try and give this woman like a good experience, just make sure that she goes through this part and we're good, and hopefully she just thinks highly of the club and the department after this point in time. And so when I was getting ready to be like, well, sorry, we lost no weight or whatever, that kind of deal, we're sitting down, and I was like, okay, well, how do you feel? And she's like, I feel better, clothes fit a little bit better, like energy's really good. And then she goes, I think I'm ready to have that nutrition conversation now. And I'm like, all right, let's have the nutrition conversation. And she signed up for another 3 or 4 months at that point in time. We had a nutrition conversation, which for her was just about making better decisions. It's like not like me writing anything structured down. Let's go through some of these things. Let's talk through your day. And at the end of 3 or 4 months, she lost 40 or 50 pounds or whatever it was, and was like just like a raving fan at that point in time. So I always say there's a million specific examples of that. And I think this is one of the biggest things where like inexperienced trainers or newer trainers feel that they have to provide goals as opposed to manage expectations. And there's a whole bunch of times where a trainer will say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Because every trainer now, if you're in a club, especially if you're in a normal club, it's like the thing where everyone's a jack of all trades. Someone's sitting in front of you, be like, oh yeah, what is your specialization? What's your goal? Weight loss. Specialize in weight loss. Next person's a baseball player. Specialize in baseball players. Next person's coming off of a knee surgery. Post rehab, that's my deal. And so it's like they want to have all these specific answers for all these things, where lots of times if they were just honest and manage expectations, ultimately it will make for better results and more trusting clients. Even the same thing, like when you have someone in front of you that hopefully you don't specialize in, and you say, oh, well, I really want to get you the best possible goals. I'm not your guy for this. This is the guy for that. This is the gal for that actually specializes in that thing. And again, even short term, so in the example where someone else sitting in front of that client at that point in time probably would have lied and said, oh, don't worry, we'll bust ass in the gym. I'm gonna burn so many calories in our 3 sessions, you're gonna lose so much weight, we're gonna kick ass, it's fine. And because that sounds better then, like nobody wants to say out loud, I can guarantee 0 pounds of weight loss. Because that's like, you're a trainer, how the hell are you gonna say you can guarantee 0 pounds of weight loss? That's being like a mechanic and be like, I don't think I could fix shit. But it's like the person's like, all right, I want you to fix my car, but you can't open the hood. And it's like, all right, I'll figure something out. Like you wouldn't wanna say that, it's the same thing. They're not letting you do a step that's in the process, then just tell them what the possible outcome is gonna be. And so there's again, a whole bunch of times where trainers, I think they want to tell people what they want to hear, or they want to guarantee a different outcome. And if you really actually go back and say, well, here's my experience, here's what I've seen, here's what I need these actions. And if you're unwilling to do those things, that's fine, right? So it's not like something where you don't have to do those things, you don't have to do the diet thing, you don't have to do this specific thing, but here's the outcome that's going to come with it. And like I said, there's hopefully you guys, the more you go through this, and the same thing with competitors and stuff, we have people that like, I don't want to do this part, or I don't want to do that part. And especially in our industry now, like I joke, there's things too that people just don't highlight as much. You'll have clients that they want to put on X amount of weight, they want to do a show, but at the same time, they're just so caught up in everything. So it's like, what are your goals? Like, I want to do a show, I want to build my brand, whatever the hell that means. I want to do this, I want to 5X my business, I want to blah, blah, blah. And when you talk to people, it's like, oh, things aren't going well, and they're sleeping 5 hours a night. It's like, well, because I've got to grind, team hustle, team whatever. And it's like, okay, well, you need to start prioritizing and making 8 hours of sleep happen a night, or this isn't going to happen. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, well, let's like have a whole conversation. What's your goal? What's your main goal? And if you're unwilling to do those things, that's fine, but this is not going to be the same outcome we talked about in the first place. So even within competitors, everybody always has their idea of the outcome that they want, and they always have their idea of what they're going to have to do to get there, but that doesn't always line up with reality. And that's stuff where I joke, you get a lot of people that they're the hardest worker in the room, according to their posts and their hashtags. And but when you actually ask them to do something tedious, like, hey, do this thing where you move your foot like this, or then like this, or whatever it is, like some very tedious thing, do this 10 times a day at some point in time. They're like, wait, what? And then when you ask them to do these tedious things or whatever, something they can't post about, something that's not a PR, something that's not cool, something where that hashtag doesn't work, all of a sudden adherence goes out the window. Or the same team 9 hours of sleep. No one posts that. You can't sleep 9 hours a night. I got to get out. I got to hustle. I got to grind. It's like, well, if you want to have your goals, that might not be as sexy of a thing that you need to do, but that kind of has to happen to go with that. So there's a whole host of things that will always go within normal clients, competitors, whatever. And if you're not willing to manage expectations, ultimately, like I said, it might feel like it'll bite you in the butt short term, but long term, this is absolutely one of the best things you can ever do for your business as well too. Because again, long term, if, like I said, if you're comfortable actually referring people out at times, if you're comfortable actually having those tough conversations with people where it's, again, because some other coach will be like, oh, don't worry about getting sleep. We'll just do all this other stuff. We'll just up the dose. We'll just eat more food. We'll just do whatever. And then what'll happen is that person might short term leave you, maybe go with someone else. But 10 years down the road, when they've made zero progress and they haven't addressed the one real thing that's actually causing the issue, they'll be like, oh yeah, like that one guy was actually telling me the truth that whole long time ago or whatever it is. Long term, and again, if you don't just want to be somebody that's good, like I said, at Instagram or TikTok, you want to be someone that actually provides good value, results, manages expectations for your clients. Those are the habits to get yourself in, now.